Was not Jimmy was there? Jimmy McElroy, the meat wagon.
Oh, tell Jen about the meat wagon.
Yes, please.
My good friend Jimmy McElroy. He was friends with my brother Luigi. They grew up in Brooklyn together, Manhattan. And Jimmy and my brother, they were just the best of best. Jimmy McElroy, you know, these people think do they know who Jimmy is?
It's all online.
Jimmy McElroy was, he ran a thing that's legendary. If you ever wanted to whack anybody, Jimmy was the guy. Because he had a thing called the meat wagon. And sometimes there'd be 10, 20 bodies in it. And he drove it around New York, killing people. But he worked for the Gambinos. Because at that time, all the Irish Westies, they worked for the mob. And Jimmy was my brother's good friend. And Jimmy was my good friend. He died in my arms at Mule Creek. He died in my arms, in his cell, in my arms.
How did he die?
Cirrhosis. But a great human being. But he was Jimmy McElroy. He was the enforcer. You know, he's the one who testified. He ended up at the end testifying on Gotti.
So after the 60 Minutes program then, that showed the guards murdering the prisoners in the staged fights, how did the prison change after that?
It changed because the FBI came in. And the FBI got rid of everybody. I'm going to let you know now, so you can see it with the Michael Thompson thing, that there was an officer named Officer Tomei who I fought with in my cell and who handcuffed me to the cell right above Michael's cell. But when the FBI came in after the 60 Minutes piece, everybody disappeared. It was a whole new prison because we fought for it. You know, I like, if I may, you know, I talk about Michael Thompson, about this killer, about this area. No, one of the most, I can tell you this right now, that besides Ben Thompson, who I spoke to you about, Michael Thompson took me to a level where beat them at their own game. And I beat them at their own game, litigation-wise. And that's when I started litigating. And when the prison changed, it was a new era. When Arnold Schwarzenegger became the governor at that time, all that bullshit stopped. People stopped dying. You know, just because you're incarcerated for a crime, it's hard enough doing a life sentence. It's hard enough doing 6 years. But to have somebody feeding you green bologna, to have somebody, you know, I remember in Vacaville we were saying, why do we have shit on the shingle but there's no shit, there's no meat? Well, then they indict the lieutenant who was taking all the meat and selling it outside of the prison. Or my baseball card collection of Roberto Clemente and Jim Brown, how the Lieutenant Van Sant took my stuff and then had the audacity to sell it online and get busted for it. But that's what Corcoran was. That's what prison was. Prison, there's no rules.
So you got moved to Soledad.
Loved it.
Loved it.
Loved it.
Was it in Corcoran where you got to kiss your dad goodbye?
Yes, that's when I was telling you, Mr. Gomez ordered the warden of Corcoran. But at that time, that warden, Mr. White, he was not listening to his bosses in Sacramento. Corcoran was the only state facility. Now there's many prisons in California that they have to listen to Sacramento. That's the director of corrections. But this warden said, fuck you, I'm not. Joey Torres isn't going to bury his father. And Jim Gomez said, fuck you, and sent 5 cars on the yard to come right to the unit and take me. And as soon as I left the facility, they parked, took all the chains off me and said, we don't know who you know or who the fuck you are, but damn.
Not to be messed with.
And that's what the investigation did. When 60 Minutes, I'll never forget, the old man from 60 Minutes came in. If anybody gets a chance, look at the 60 Minutes of Corcoran Prison and you will understand what transpired.
I'll try and find that.
Yes.
You ran into Little Boxer.
I don't want to talk about it.
Next.
But he got you a job as a library clerk, which helped.
You know, it wasn't that he got me a job. It was the beginning of the. It was. You know, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that.
Are we able to talk about hepatitis C? Yeah.
But I shouldn't say that because he was able to put me in the law library where I found the miraculous writ. So I can't say that.
Gotta give him some credit.
I have to, but you have to understand I was under indictment for 3 closed murders with him. And I don't want to talk about it because I just don't.
Of course,
You know.
we understand. So this is where you learned you had Hep C, and that was from tattooing, was it?
What happened was, it started in Nevada. I was feeling lethargic, and I was like, I'm running, but why am I feeling like this? You know, I don't feel myself. I can't do 5 rounds on the back. I only can do 2 and I'm winded, and I'm walking away going, man, what's up with me? And then when I returned, they had this program where you give your blood. And in return, they give you credits to go to the canteen. They came in and told me, you can't give no blood. You have Hep C. And I'm like, I don't do drugs. How do I have Hep C? And it was from the tattoos. Everybody thinks it's the needle, but it's not the needle. It's the ink. If I tattoo you and I have the ink here, I throw it back in the bottle. So after a year or 2, you got how many people's blood in that bottle? So people need to be aware, bring your own ink. Yeah, I had Hep C advanced to the point where I had jaundice and I was, yeah.
And how did they treat you?
Well, I was attempting, I asked them for a treatment, and the treatment that I was asking for was approved, but they weren't giving it to inmates. And I was like, how is that not possible? How is that not possible? So, being that the fact that, you know who helped me with that writ is Michael. Michael helped me with that writ. Michael did the writ for me. And it was denied in the Department of Corrections, so I filed an appeal, a writ of habeas. And San Bernardino Court ordered the Department of Corrections to give me the treatment that I needed. And that was an experience I'd never experienced when they gave me that shot every afternoon.
So things got deadly again on the yard. You were called out by some bikers. You went out with some 18th Street guys that had your back. And then what happened?
Can't talk about it.
Alright, well, according to this, you felt a pain in the neck, and then a red hot pain in your neck. A fist came in as you tried to fight back, but you collapsed.
Someone was found murdered in their cell.
I can't talk about it.
So the knife went into your side, and while you had these injuries, you continued studying your case.
Yeah. You get stabbed, you plug it up. When they stab me in the neck, I got my chewing tobacco and I rolled it up and put it in my hole.